That John McCarter has joined me in the studio. John has just stepped down as Lifeboat Operations Manager. This is after 20 years of dedicated service, and he's officially retired from his role with Loswilly RNLI. Sort of hung up his pager, but anyhow, he's not fully gone, as I think he's going to tell us now. John, anyhow, good afternoon, happy New Year to you.
And the same to you, John. Many of them.
Good to see you again. Good to talk to you. We've talked down through the years about different fundraising events and so on.
We certainly have.
You've been involved in the RNLI in more ways than one for 20 years. I thought it was even longer.
Well, sometimes it has felt like that, but no, you know, it has passed in a flash, John. I'm surprised when I look back on it, just how much water has flowed onto the bridge, so to speak. But definitely it has been a fairly long stretch, but a very enjoyable time, really.
And your roles within Loswilly over the years would have been what?
Well, I suppose I came back to live in Buncrana back about the mid-70s, and I very quickly took up sailing there on Loswilly and enjoyed the water, and still do indeed. But partly as a result of that, I was approached there by the then operations manager and one of the crew to would I get involved in early 2002-3, that sort of time. And they didn't want me to be. I was sort of past the real seagoing stage even then. So they asked me to become what you call a DLA, or a deputy launching authority in the station management, which looks after the overall operation. So I worked there in that role, and very quickly, I suppose about a year into that, I got inveigled into getting involved in fundraising as well, and was part of a team that kind of pioneered what was then called clustering of the branches around Inishowen and Letterkenny and Ramelton and all here to work together on some projects, and then work separately as well in their own areas. So that sort of pushed me into the fundraising area quite strongly. And then a few years later, my predecessor Liam McGee retired, and I took on the operations as well. And I suppose within the RNLI, generally those two roles don't fall onto the same person, but the way it evolved here is I had both of them, and I've really enjoyed the connection that operations and fundraising have with each other.
Okay.
And it's been great to be able to kind of develop it along those lines, although generally they're kept somewhat separated.
Yeah, because operations to me sounds like, you know, you're hands-on, making sure that the crew's in place for when they're needed, and then, you know, getting them out, whereas fundraising obviously is working away in the background through the year, trying to raise money for equipment and training and so on.
Yeah, and that's very definitely the case. And once I had to give the priority generally to operations, but then, you know, since we're a totally voluntary organisation and we only exist at the behest of the generosity of the general public, so raising the money is equally important, because it is an expensive organisation to run, and it never has ceased to amaze me the absolute generosity and the esteem in which the RNLI is held, not only here in Inishowen or in Donegal or all over Ireland, all over the British Isles where it exists. And this year we're going to be 200 years old, and we've always been in that kind of vein where there's no outside support. It's all on the basis of what the general public feels about it and donates to it. That's not to take away at all from the huge job that the operations team do when they go to the guys and girls that are involved in seagoing and will go at the drop of a hat, or when the pager goes, not regardless of weather, but they do go out in some very difficult conditions, because that's largely when a lot of people get into bother.
Yes, I think it's only when you become active on the water yourself, and it could be something as simple as just going out in a kayak, or it could be, you know, you do maybe a lot of sailing, or you have a bigger boat or whatever. It's only when you do that, and then you're out, maybe, you know, the weather's not as good as you had hoped for, or then things start to go through your head, you know, what if this cuts out, or what if I don't make it in? It's only then that it clicks what the vital role that the RNLI do, and what they are the whole year round. And I suppose it's important just to remind people that, okay, our waterways mightn't be that busy at the moment, but this is 12 months of the year, 52 weeks of the year. This is they are there when people get into difficulty on the water, not just during the busy summer season.
Oh, that's certainly true, John. And yes, the summer season, spring and summer, tend to be busier for us. That's when a lot of people go on the water in all sorts of craft, and they do. Some of the difficulties they get into are quite simple, and people run out of fuel. They get a rope around their prop, or they get too far out from the edge of the water and can't get back. But at least on a phone call, we're there, or we can be there. In Buncrana there, we operate two boats. We have an inshore inshore lifeboat at semi-rigid inflatable that can get on the water in about 7 minutes from we get the call. Mm-hmm. So the response time is very, very quick. Mm-hmm. Our all-weather boat usually takes a little bit longer, but maybe 10 minutes. But the crew is on the way at that stage.
And that's for bigger journeys.
For bigger journeys, generally things that go offshore, not always, but its capability we can go, say, 100 miles out to sea, and if needed. Most things happen within 10 nautical miles of the coast.
Yeah.
But at least between Portrush and Ironmore and ourselves, we sort of form a necklace around the northwest here, and we work in together whatever we have to do. Our sort of patch, I suppose, would cover all of Lough Swilly, some of the lochs either side of it. Take us out to about Tory Island in the west and over towards the mouth of the Foyle in the east. So we have quite a big patch to cover there, and with the two boats and the combination, we can look after that reasonably well.
So depending where you are, if you get into difficulty and you make that distress call, then there's an office or a manager somewhere that decides, okay, Ironmore's closest, so we'll send Ironmore out, or ask Ironmore, can they go out to that?
Yeah, I mean, for us, that's Mallinhead Rescue Centre or Mallinhead Coast Guard. The emergency calls we would ask everybody to, never hesitate to make the call. If you see something that looks like difficulty, call them, call 999 and ask for the Coast Guard, and they will then coordinate us as one of the emergency services, but helicopters, ambulances, Garda, whatever. So the beauty is that it's all coordinated through Mallinhead.
Why is it not state funded? I mean, if you get into an accident and you call 999 and an ambulance comes out, that's state funded. Why would it not be the same on the water?
Well, it's probably a question way above my pay grade, as they say, but as I mentioned earlier there, we're 200 years in operation this year. And when Sir William Hillary founded the operation in the Isle of Man in 1824, they founded it on the goodwill of people. And it has remained that way. And I suppose one of the things that does is it gives a great independence of operation to the organisation. They're not hidebound by politics or anything else. And fortunately, the general public have always taken the Iron Alive very close to their heart, and looked after it and funded it through generosity, both during their lives and after their lives are over. Yeah. But a great source of the money we have comes from people who have finished their lives and left us considerable donations in their wills.
And that's a very easy way to contribute.
In
one way.
In one way it is, yeah. But that doesn't take away from the huge effort that the communities and branches around the country here raise fundraising efforts, and as they say, put the fun into fundraising and run amazing events to look after us. But then here we have a lot of people who work, almost alone in their own community organisations, who raise money and want to raise it for us on our behalf, which is great.
And that money is vital, because there's no point in sending a boat out to an emergency that breaks down.
No.
There's no point in sending a crew out with shoddy life jackets or equipment.
No, I mean that. We as an institution or as an organisation are asking our volunteers, of which is the 95% of our people are volunteers, and we're asking them to put their lives on the line, 52 weeks a year, 24 hours a day. At the call of the pager, they'll go. There's never any question in their head, and it's the institution's obligation, really, and a wish to give them the best training and the best equipment that we can give them, so that they go there properly equipped against weather and water and everything else, and also very importantly, in the modern all-weather lifeboats Shannon class that we have here in Inishowen, and there are now several of them around the country. But we were fortunate enough to have the first of them in Ireland. But these boats are very, very well built. They're technologically very, very advanced, but the comfort in them for the crew is exceptional. The seats are extremely well sprung and so forth, so that when a person or when a crew arrives at an incident that they may have been 4 or 5 hours at sea getting there, they'll arrive fresh and able to work in difficult conditions to bring people safely home. So that a huge investment goes into making that happen. A Shannon class lifeboat today is about just short of 3 million to put on the water. It's a huge amount of money, but it goes to preserve the people who travel in it and enable them to get there and get the job they have to do done.
And then it's to keep the lifeboat stations maintained and all the equipment maintained. Yeah. So it's not just about getting the equipment in the first place or about the training. So I can understand where the money goes.
And people, so when you talk in millions, people wonder where they put in a few bob in a box, or how does that help? But like a pair of gloves are €12, a pair of rubber boots are €30 odd. So everything counts. Every penny counts at the end of the day.
And has it changed much over the 20 years?
I suppose it has. In some ways it has, in other ways it hasn't. The ethos and the behind it is still the same in the people, that they don't join the RNLI without thinking it's a job well worth doing, and the people get dedicated and are dedicated to going to sea to save lives. That's our mission's very simple. We save lives at sea, and everything that we do works towards that. But I suppose again the level of equipment and sophistication we work with is ever changing, ever getting more technically competent and better aids with it. I suppose another thing that has grown, the paperwork, etc., changes. We've got to keep very, very careful records these days in all of that we do. But in overall sense, the overall job doesn't change all that much.
It's still going to sea.
People going to sea in boats to help others, and we use all the modern conveniences and aids that we can to make that happen.
All right. So what about you and the RNLI now? I mean, is that you've stepped down from your role as operations manager, but are you gone, or are you still going to be around just for a bit of advice or guidance, or because 20 years is a lot of experience? Well,
yeah, and the institution says when you reach 70 years of age, you should be thinking of standing down. That's fair enough. Mm-hmm. I have reached that point there last year, and I thought that's fair enough. That's the time to pass this on. But the RNLI is we often refer to ourselves as a family, and it's a family I never really want to leave. And I'm quite happy to pass on the somewhat onerous responsibilities. I do want to be I'm quite happy to remain with it and be part of it as long as I can be. And they asked me back there to a crew meeting last night to present some certificates for casualty care, and at the same time they they asked me to become chairman of the Lifeboat Management Group, which is a somewhat honorary position. But at least it will keep me in contact.
Keeps your hand.
It allows me to be available to my successor as and when that successor comes, or anybody else that's there for whatever advice and experience I can bring to it. And I'm very happy to do that. And I do wish our own station and everybody in the institution every success in the future, because it is a hugely valuable organisation, one that I have really enjoyed being part of, and it has taken a huge chunk of my life, or been part of a huge chunk of my own life, and really well worthwhile and rewarding to be there. And I've met so many wonderful people, both in the organisation, in our own crew, all around the community where we've raised money. I've made friends, all sorts of places, and it's just a wonderful thing to be part of.
Well, I don't think you could give up 20 years of your life to volunteering, whatever sort it would be, if you didn't like it, and you seem to have enjoyed it. But also, I would think that your contribution has been immense over that 20 years, and not just in fundraising, but also in operations. I wish you the best in retirement, from this role, and in your future contributions, whatever there will be with the RNLA, and thanks for coming in for a wee chat today.
Well, John, I'm delighted to have been able to do it, to be here today, and I'd also like to thank you and all the folks here in Highland for all the help you have given us and airtime you've given us, made people aware of what we do, about our fundraising events and things. You've always been hugely supportive of us, and I'm really delighted for that. And it's as we call ourselves, we're one crew, but we're all one community up here in Donegal, and we love to help each other, and that's the way it should be, and I hope it goes on that way.
John McCarter, thank you.
Thank you.